Good morning, Young Kings. Time for your more motivation. Decided to jump on this morning. It's been about a week since I've been on, maybe just a little longer. I'm gonna have to go check the date on the video. But anyways, it's been a lot going on since my last video, so I decided I'll come on and get back to the battle of the rebirth, because this battle of the rebirth, I think it's essential for the introduction to the world. Introducing ourselves to our new world, our new reality, and kind of shedding our former selves. So we'll continue to do that. I'm not sure the frequencies will go with the flow. But as I mentioned last week, had a lot of stuff going on at work, and then my car broke down. Had to spend $700 for some strut mounts. And then about 2 days later, my check engine light comes on, and someone with the carburetor or something, and they wanted another $3,000 to fix that. So I decided to trade it in and go get me a new car. Didn't want a new payment, but at the same time, I didn't want to continue to invest money into an old car and not knowing when the next maintenance repair was going to come. So I went and got a 2021 Jeep Wrangler. Nice truck. Love it a lot. I know you're not supposed to love material things, but I do enjoy it. But even in the new truck that I got, I was driving it, and that thing broke down on me too. Got to a light. Now this thing is brand new, 2021, and it had 143 miles on it. And come to a light, and it just shuts off. You know, wouldn't start back up and stuff of that nature. So long story short, I had to take it back to the dealer, and they said it had a faulty computer in it. So they had to go and redo it. So that's where I've been struggling with. And I realized with this battle of the rebirth, and I don't think any of these things are by accident. All these things are connected to the rebirth. Like, just because you introduce the world to your new self, don't mean that you won't have new problems and new things that arise. And if you're not careful, you will try to associate it to, all right, man, I got bad luck, or bad things are happening since I made these changes. And the reality of it is that bad things happen to good people, just like bad things happen to bad people. I mean, the rain, when it rains, it talks about in scripture, it rains on the just and unjust. So don't try to confuse that with your rebirth, because you started having troubles right after you get into your new self. So as you can see, I'm out on the track again, reintroduction to the outside running. And I tell you what, it's a difference getting back out on this track. And I've been working out through the winters and running on the treadmill, but getting back out on this track, it's hard. It works different parts of your body, of your mind, and I would say even reach to the depths of your soul. And at times you want to quit, but you know me, there ain't no quitting me, so I'm going to continue to go. But as I was running, there's a lot of stuff going on in this big head, so I'm not sure how we're going to unpack it tonight or today, but we'll get it unpacked somehow. But the reality of it is, I realized, like, the difference between running on the track and running on the treadmill and how it's attached to the rebirth. Running on the treadmill, I would say that's more your adaptive self. Running on the track out here with nature, that's more of your authentic self. And the way I was thinking about it in my head, it's like when you're running on a treadmill, you're running in place. You got the belt that goes around, you know, and the machine is controlling your pace. It has this shock absorbers in there, so it's more supposed to be easier on your body and less shocks on your hips and your knees and stuff of that nature. And you're surrounded by people. If you're at the fitness center, you're surrounded by people in the gym and stuff of that nature. So but you're not going anywhere. You're just stationary. And that's more your adaptive self. People, it's more comfortable, it's more appealing to people to do it that way. But when you're running on this track, it's just you, your body, your mind, and if you have music, whatever it is. But I know that my lower back was hurting, my calves was hurting, and these things ain't hurt on the treadmill. And before I transitioned to the inside for the winter, because that's normally what I do, now that I have hip surgery, I used to run outside in the winter, but now I'd be kind of nervous about slipping and falling and damaging my hip or my knee even worse. So I tend to go inside to the gym. But transitioning back outside, man, to be honest, I just ran just over 2 miles and my calves was hurting and my lower back was hurting. I've run farther than that on a treadmill inside, but making that transition outside, it's slow. And that's why kind of making that transition from your adaptive self to your authentic self, it's not going to be an overnight success where you can go say, hey, I'm going to shed everything that wasn't me before, that was my adaptive self, and I'm going to be truly my authentic self from this point forward. You got to understand there's going to be some pains in your body. And when you're out here running, like I said, it's just you. Your adaptive self, there's going to be times where you be alone, where it's just going to be you. There ain't going to be nobody around. Like, if I were to go to the gym right now, it's going to be crowded with people around there. So that's more if I was in a place where my adaptive self, there's going to be people around associating with me that's kind of, I'm fitting in with what they're doing. And, you know, even though I'm doing my own thing in my adaptive self environment, I would be surrounded by people. But when you get to your authentic version of yourself, sometimes the track is empty and you're going to have to make that decision to continue to run on your own, because it's one of those internal things. It's like you're not there running to impress anybody, or you're just there because that's what you need to do, what needs to be done for you to be in a healthier state. So I got just over 2 miles and my calf was hurting, lower back was hurting just for making that transition, run around the track. And if you don't remember, like before the winter start, I was running outside. I was running 10 miles, 12 miles, 15 miles. And I think I did climax at 26.4 miles doing a marathon before the winter hit. So I go from being able to run 24 or 26.4 miles to struggling to run 2 miles outside without my body feeling like it ran 26 miles. So it's just kind of going to be one of those stages where you got to build back up. Start from this 2, move up to 2.5, 3, and I'll get back. I'm not sure if I'm going to run 26 miles again. But we'll see how this summer unfolds and as we go into spring and summer. But I just wanted to let you know that there's a difference between that adaptive self and your authentic version of yourself. And as I got up this morning, I was doing my morning reading, start to incorporate that back into my schedule. Because what I realized is that when your day gets started, if you're not intentional about it, it'll get away from you. And then you can go days and days and you realize like, man, I haven't been on task on purpose and it just got away from me. So, excuse me. Now I'm getting up and I'm getting into my scripture reading. I'm kind of switching hands back and forth because it's kind of cold out here. It's like about 37, 38 degrees. And that's the other thing about this. I'm coming back to the scripture reading, but when you adapt yourself, it's kind of warm in the gym. It's got a comfortable, cozy environment, stuff of that nature. But then your authentic self, it comes out in the element. You know, you got to deal with the cold. You got to deal with the heat as it comes. You know, and in a summertime, inside the gym is going to have air conditioning, fans going, but your authentic self will be outside in the heat. So you're going to have to deal with a lot more things being authentic than you would have to deal with being adaptive. And you're going to have to make that choice because sometimes it's more appealing to fit in than it is to stand out. But the reality of it is, we were created to stand out. God didn't create us to be the same. And when we do, and when we try to fit in, I think we communicate to God like, hey, God, you didn't make me right. I'm not appreciative of the way you fashioned me. Like, I need to be this and I need to be that. Instead of just being. So your authentic version of yourself, you're going to deal with some more stuff than you would have if you were just to proceed with your adaptive self. But going back to the scripture reading, like I said, it gets away from you. Your day gets away from you if you don't take charge of it. Like, you got to capture and seize your day before your day sees you. So I get up and I do my scripture reading, and today I was in Ephesians 2, and it talks about a rebirth in there. And it starts off in the chapter. It talks about you were dead in your transgressions and sin, that you were pursuing the desires of your flesh and of your worldly pursuits, your lust, your ego, whatever it was, you was pursuing that. But then it says, but God, or yet God. And I think that yet or but God is a rebirth. It's definitely a part of the rebirth. And it's like, you were doing this that was outside of where you were supposed to be doing. You adapt yourself. Everything that you wanted to do and felt that you needed to do or whatever to be accepted, to be fitted in with wherever your environment was conducive to you fitting in. Then it says, but God. And I think that's the part of the rebirth that happens right there. And it says, who is rich in mercy. You know, it was his mercy and it was his grace. And I think I said it before in some previous videos that grace stands for God's riches at Christ's expense. Like, it was God who turned this thing around. And for you to be your adaptive self, it's going to take a God-like effort. Things are going to start coming at you to question if it's okay to be your authentic self. Or do you need to settle and go back in? Because it's going to be a daily fight for who you are. But if you lose this battle of the rebirth, you lose you. That's where the point of the first battle of self-discovery was, for us to start discovering ourselves and for us to hold on to what we have discovered, and for us to introduce to the world this person, this version of us that is authentic in nature, that's ready to be real in every situation and be truly who you are. And that truly who you are is not feeling good all the time. That's not getting it right all the time. This is not an exercise in perfection. This is a strive for excellence. So don't let people confuse your transition into your authentic self as though you're supposed to be walking perfectly from this point on. You're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes even in this transition, you know, and there's distractions out there. I tell you, I could be doing so good on a lot of things, and then the next thing you know, a young lady will slide into my inbox and say, hey, how you doing, this and that. And it's just a distraction there. You gotta realize that there's forces out there that's trying to see if you're going to be true to you, and if they can get you to move off your rocker and, you know, shift you from the position of being authentic and get you to a position of being adaptive and fitting in. Excuse me, it's cold out here, as I mentioned. See the breath? But it's just a test, and you got to understand when those tests come, you may not pass all the tests, but there's a retest if you want it, as long as you don't quit. So it talks about, you know, it says, but God, who is rich in mercy, saw fit to restore you. And I'm not going word for word. Go read the chapter down. And then it talks about later in that chapter, it says how when God did it, he freely did it. And he says it's not of man that he shall boast. It's not of works that you can say you earned it. This authentic version was God ordained. Now, there's some people that may misunderstand my version of authentic self, and it's being restored to who God created you to be. This is not for you a license for you to go out and be destructive and say, well, I'm just doing me. I'm just going to go rob a bank, or I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to do that. No. This is a license for you to go back into what God created you to be. Like it talks about in Genesis, where God says he created man and he saw that it was very good. This is your return to very good, because it says, like in the beginning of Ephesians, it talked about you were dead to your transgressions. Like that's what happened when Adam fell. We all fell. When Eve took a bite of that apple, and then Adam in his adaptive self decided to eat of the apple as well, we all took a bite of that apple, and we all fell into an adaptive version of ourselves. And now the fight is to come back to our authentic versions. And it's hard, because from our early birth, and I mentioned in the videos, we've been conditioned to be what other people want us to be, whether it be our parents, our teachers, or whatever it may be. But again, I'm going to come back to that. But in Ephesians, it talked about, you know, it's not of works. So this authentic self, you're going to have to work for it, but you can't work for it. You know, you're going to have to earn it, but you can't earn it. And I know it sounds confusing. And even for me to say it, it sounds like a mystery in itself, but it's a gift. You just got to receive it. But in your receiving it, it's going to cause you to do some work. It's not that you work to earn it. It's just that God has entrusted something with you, and now it's your time to be a good steward over yourself. Like this car I just got. I still got to go pay for it. Yes, mine, but I still got a note. So I can't say, well, it's my car. I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm not going to go pay the note on there. Guess what? That car going to go get repossessed. And my adaptive self is going to be walking and fitting in and riding the bus with the rest of y'all. I'm joking. But anyways, it's like you still got to go through and pay the price for it. Like, it's not free. Nobody just didn't just come give me a car. I had to go purchase a car, and then I got to start paying for it. But what God is saying, he said, I'm giving you this, but you still got to go out and you got to be a good steward over it. Not that I earned it, but it says not anything should boast, that any man shall boast. And I realized that boasting is a version of your adaptive self. Like the art of boasting, of bragging and stuff of that nature. And I know this because, at times I can be arrogant to an extent. But boasting is aligned with your adaptive self. Because I was thinking about this as I was running. It's like that boasting is trying to impress other people. It's trying to show people, hey, I did this, I did that. And it's to fit in or to be accepted by someone. Like, when you know that you know, you ain't got to show. Your authentic version, don't need to be accepted by other people or have to show people that they got the latest fashion. There's people out there that will have on $200 and $300 pair of shoes and don't have a car. I know it sounds stupid, but there's people out there like that. There's people out there that drive, $60,000 and $70,000 car, living in an apartment. I know it sounds stupid, but there's people out there like that. There's people out there with the latest designer clothes, that costs hundreds of $1,000s, hundreds of dollars, and they don't have the amount of money that they're wearing in their bank account. Like, let's say they got on an outfit that costs $500. They don't have $500 in their savings. I know it sounds stupid. I mean, I've been there where I've looked rich and I've looked like I had stuff together so I can have my adaptive self feeling good. But my authentic version of me was broke. The reality was that, hey, I was looking good, feeling bad. I know back in the day, me, Eric, and Cam, we went to the NCO club, because when we were privates in the Army, man, we used to blow our money in the first 6-7 days, but for that 7 days, we balled out. I mean, like, when we got paid on the first, man, we eating out, we going to buy new outfits and getting ready to go out to the club and do all this stuff. We, eating good, we cooking out, just blowing money. And then when the 7th came around, we don't get paid again until the 15th. We were struggling. We're struggling, They got a mess hall dining facility that we could go eat for free. But when the first came, when you got payday on the first, that dining facility be empty. For that first week, did nobody really eat in the dining facility. But after that first week, around the 8th and 9th, man, that dining facility line is around the corner. Everybody broke. Everybody then pizza, then ate out, and then went and parted their money away. Now they got to go back to that free meal. So that portion of you that wants to go out and do all these things, that's your adaptive self. So boasting in itself is a part of your adaptive self. That's a long introduction. Y'all know when I get on these runs, this stuff goes through my head. So, and it's cold out here. That's why I keep switching hands. My hand's going to get frostbite. But anyways, today's version of your authentic self. I know the other day you were supposed to look back and assess yourself after each event that you did to see were you authentic. And I think I gave myself about a C plus. I'm still in conversion. There's some things that I performed in my adaptive self that afterwards I said, you know what? I really didn't mean to do it that way. So I'm still growing into my adaptive self. Into my authentic version of self, meaning that I'm not speaking to you as a person that has already arrived. I'm on this journey too. So for this week or whatever time that you have allotted for these activities, it's like, I want you to go back into your early childhood to really assess your upbringing, and then what discouraged you from being your authentic self. Maybe it was a parent that, told you to sit down, shut up, and, sit in the corner, and you got all this energy. Now you felt as though having that energy, it wasn't acceptable. So you tried to make sure that's dormant, and you had to change your personality to fit the confines of the environment that you were around. So maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a sibling that, talked about you and said you're never going to be this, or that you're not smart, or whatever it is. And then you start believing that, and then you started acting out and being a class clown to fit in with your adaptive self, to fit in, as opposed to being your authentic version of working hard. Like, you don't got to be smart to be successful. You got to be persistent. Like, I'm not the brightest light bulb in the box, but I still shine, because my persistence and my work ethic is going to get me to the stage where I'm continuing to get better, to evolve. So don't let your intelligence or the lack thereof be your reason for not being your authentic version of yourself. You may have to work harder, but it's still attainable. I'm living proof of that. Maybe it was a teacher that, that blamed your inability to learn what they were teaching on you versus on their inability to teach. So go back through your childhood and figure out, where did you start to lose yourself? Where did you start to be willing to surrender who you are to become what they wanted you to be? Was it a parent? Was it the absence of a parent? Was it a teacher, a principal, a sibling? Was it friends? Have you ever had something where you wanted to, you had this ideal or this vision, and you shared it with someone, and they say, oh man, that sounds stupid. Why would you want to do something like that? And before you shared it, you may have been excited about it, but after you shared it, you started to reassess, man, why do I want to do that? Why should I do this? Some things you can't share with people. And as I was reading this morning, and we're coming up on 23 minutes, I was also in a book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah too was talking about how he had got the vision for God to go rebuild his city. And when he was going around the city to make his assessment, he says, I didn't tell a soul of what I was doing, because he knew, and it talks about in there, that everybody that came to the knowledge of what he was doing wasn't going to be for him. They were going to be against him. So he wasn't going to go feed the people that were going to be against him, opposing him, information about what he was doing. He just wasn't going to show them. So it came to a point where he just had to sneak out in the dark, and he had to go around and then observe what he was going to be doing, and then start developing his plan in silence. There's going to be some times that this authentic version of yourself that you're going to have to move in silence, that you can't tell people your dreams. I know a lot of times you get excited and you want to share the excitement of this new adventure with people. Hey, be careful. Right now, since I've been moving into my authentic version, my circle's been so small, I think it's a period. Be wise, young kings.